We're back to give you the legal edge, and tonight we're talking about dog attacks. Here in Michigan, dog owners can and often are found responsible or liable when their dogs bite, attack, or injure people or other dogs. Here's what you need to know from local attorney Brian Waldman.
And in Michigan, it's important to understand that we have what's called a strict liability dog bite statute. And what that means is if a dog bites someone, the owner is going to be held responsible or liable, even if they're a responsible dog owner, even if this dog has never harmed anyone before. The only defense when a dog bites someone to a claim that's made against the owner is if the person who was bitten was a trespasser, or if that person did something to provoke the dog to bite them. Now, dogs can cause injuries to people in ways other than biting them. They can knock people over. They can scratch them. They can attack them in other ways other than biting. And in those types of cases, there will need to be a finding to hold the dog owner responsible that they were negligent, that they didn't behave the way that a reasonable dog owner would behave in terms of keeping the dog secured, for example, on the property, in a fence, backyard, inside the house, on a leash, or even properly training the dog. Now, people often ask, what if the dog attacks my dog, or what if a dog attacks another dog? Those can be claims too, but what's often difficult for people to understand is dogs are considered property. So if a dog attacks another dog and injures or kills the other dog, the claim is not for the emotional harm caused to the owner of the dog, but just for the damage to the property. So any veterinary bills, or if the dog is killed, maybe the value of the cost of replacing the dog with another dog, which seems insensitive, but again, it's because the law considers the dog property. Now, Michigan does have a leash law that says you have to keep dogs secured on a leash, and when they're above 6 months old, they have to be licensed. They have to always wear a collar with an approved tag, and they have to be on a leash unless they're a working dog that needs to be off the leash as part of their training. Now, if a dog attacks a person or another dog and harms them, it can be deemed by a court to be a dangerous or vicious dog, and the court can put certain conditions on the dog's owner, including potentially destroying or putting the dog down, or requiring the dog to wear a muzzle when in public, or maybe requiring the dog owner to buy insurance.
And Brian recommends every dog owner purchase insurance, which is typically done through your homeowner's insurance policy or renter's insurance policy. Coming up after the break, Kendall will have a